Hey guys, I'm just here with a beautiful friend of mine, Vienda, and yeah, a number of different reasons why I wanted to bring her on here today and have a conversation. Vienda's someone I actually met in a swimming pool via another friend of ours, and just I don't know, just had a beautiful energy, just an amazing person. And hearing your adventurous story, Vienda's a writer and a mentor, and yeah, just does some amazing things while she travels around the world, which is interesting because a lot of people like to have that lifestyle. But you always just seem relaxed and serene with it. I'm sure it has its moments and so forth, but it's a cool lifestyle.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I love it.
And I'm always interested to have conversations with people that what I like to call living in the wow. You know, and have you ever heard me say that one before?
I haven't, but I love it.
Yeah. My two favorite quotes, live in the wow and be it till you see it. But just, yeah, tell us a little bit about yourself so people know a bit more about what you're up to. We can leave your details in the video later, so you've got those in regards to your website and different things. But what are you up
Well,
to?
as you said, Brock, I'm a writer and a mentor, and I travel the world while I do those things. Travel has been a part of my life since forever. And when I got to I'd say like mid-20s, I was like, okay, for me to have a successful life on my terms, which means enough money and freedom and the lifestyle that I want, how do I allow that to happen and be able to travel? And essentially over a number of years and lots of working on myself and working through my stuff and figuring out who I was and really getting to know myself. Like I actually wrote an article a few days ago about the fact that I'm turning 35 this year,
Cool.
which sounds like crazy. Like 35 is like some grown up somewhere else is 35, not me. But according to my birth certificate, I turned 35 this year. And I like myself and I know myself better than ever before. And it is such an awesome feeling. And I feel like when we do that kind of work and when we get to know each other and get to really accept and learn to love ourselves, that's when we can show up in the world and give back, and we can actually embrace who we are and make that the best thing. So when you say living in the wow, like when we know ourselves, we can easily live in the wow.
I like that. Yeah, that connection with ourselves and sharing from that essence. That's what I'm always drawn to. And if you go over, guys, say you're going to watch some of the previous interviews of conversations I've had with people, they're the people you want to hang out with forever. We literally do it where, I said it to you before, I'll see you soon. And somehow you just bump into these different beautiful people around the planet. And then, I bump into you, and then you happen to know some other people like Emily and Jeremy that happen just to speak very highly of you. And then, someone else, your name came up with someone else again recently, someone who's in your town. So we'll say hi to her right now, Rose. Let's make sure you guys catch up while you're there.
Yeah, definitely.
So let's look at that point. Like, I know a lot of people have like a point they hit. What were you doing prior to it? Say I went 10 years ago, 25. Were you on the path?
Actually, I had a very, very specific turning point. I was 23. I was in the last year of my psychology degree. And up to that point, I had a really, let's just say, challenging childhood. So my dad died when I was 10. My mother was never particularly stable or available, and my stepfather was quite verbally abusive. And so I had like all of this stuff that I was carrying around with me. And in my late teens and early 20s, I was angry and I was unhappy and I was miserable in so many ways, and carrying my past with me, thinking that they were who I was. And I was actually living in Cairns at the time, where you are. So Cairns is really special to me in my heart because my transformation happened there. And in that last year of my degree, I started going to these alternative bush parties and dancing a lot, and I started expressing myself in different ways and spending more time with people who were consciously very positive, which influenced the way that I thought about things. And I was studying psychology, so obviously I had a really strong, and I still do have really strong interest in human behavior and development and the way we work. And one day I woke up and I heard the most beautiful sound I have ever heard in my entire life. And it was just the sound of a bird singing outside my window. But the reason why it was so beautiful was because for the first time in my adult life, or in my life that I could consciously remember, I was fully present. And it was almost like I started to learn meditation, but from the inside out. Like I was being guided on how meditation, how presence works. But it was literally from one day to the next where I was like in my head all the time, just crazy, carrying all my shit, like totally out of it, not present at all, to like, boom, this is what presence is. And with that, over the next few months after that morning that I woke up, I went through this incredible transformation where I healed all of my past, and I cried, and I forgave myself, and I forgave the people around me. And it wasn't because anyone told me to do that or I was taught to do it. It was literally like something inside me that was guiding me. And that lasted for about 6 months, and I've been like a completely different human being, and like I've been the real me since then.
I like those stories. What a bird too, hey?
Yeah, what a magic moment.
Let's have more of that for sure. It's such an essence. I love it. So things I'm always curious about too. I'm so interested in what people's daily practices are. One, because I've got heaps of my own, but I'm also curious to learn more. Some people have them, and some people they're just present and things just show up and then they just do what's in the flow. But I'm curious, do you have any particular rituals or daily things you like to do to stay in the zone, in the flow? What do you like to do?
It's a great question because I waver between the two. So something that I learned during that time that I was just telling you about was that we get really regimented and restricted on how we need to be every single day. And so a lot of people will have these like schedules that they write out for themselves, and their rituals, and they're like, from 7 till 5, I'm going to do this. And well, you know, that's a really long time to do a ritual. But so for me, I do have rituals, but I don't do them every single day. It really depends. My number one thing that I always do every morning is I ask my body, so like my inner wisdom, what do I need today? What do I feel? What am I drawn to? So this morning I woke up and I was like, I need to move. So I ran up, like did my hour run up a mountain because I needed to. Like my body was like, you have to do this, otherwise I'm going to be cranky, kind of thing. And so I don't do that every morning. Some mornings I wake up, my body's like, I just want to sit outside on the sofa and like be present with the sun. And I'm like, okay, I'll do that. So maybe my ritual that I do every day is check in with myself and do what my body needs and what my intuition tells me that I need to set myself up for the day. So in some ways, yes, I take time out for me first thing in the morning, but it's not what actually happens in that time. It varies wildly.
Yeah, I like that. It's so nice to be guided by that. And I've seen different people, like one of the pleasures I have of life is being able to spend time behind the scenes with people. You know, when you see, like you often see people on stage, at the retreats, at different things. I've been very blessed in terms of, I don't post up the selfies and stuff. I'm very, very blessed to spend time with a lot of people one-on-one in amazing scenarios around the world where you see some of those things. I've seen guys that they work on their laptop from bed, then they have a snooze, then they're, you know, stand up paddleboarding out of their backyard. And these are the people doing big things in the world. And something that Jiro, a friend, said today on a webinar was this. He goes, presence is more powerful than productivity.
I 100% agree with that. It's incredible. The magic happens in the moments of presence, not in the moments of action. Like that's just like what happens afterwards. The important stuff happens before that, when there's just space in the nothingness.
Cool. So I want to get to that talking to your body scenario, because it's something that I do. I talk to everything, actually. I talk to skateboards, chat to my water, different things. So something that does sound a bit wacky and crazy. But I'm guessing, well, I don't know. Let's just ask, did you always do that? Or was there a time in your life where you started communicating with your body and having a relationship with yourself? Or is it something you've always done to a degree? And for someone that doesn't do this,
for someone who doesn't do this?
Yeah, someone, this is a new concept. They literally listen to this right now and they're like, you talk to your body?
It's definitely, okay, so let's look at it this way. We have a relationship with everything in our space. But the most important relationship you will ever have is with yourself, which includes the physical form, all the aspects. And so I feel like if there's anything you do in your life, it's nurture the relationship you have with you. and with every aspect of you. And that means having conversations with yourself, and they don't have to be out loud like, hey, good morning, sexy, how are you feeling? It doesn't have to be like that. I think like people would look at me quite strangely if I was having these conversations. But like for me, it's a thought. I think a thought like, hey, I'm checking in. I'm like, hey, how are you feeling? What do you need? What do you feel? What are you drawn to? Those are kind of like my base questions. And then whatever comes up, and it's a feeling more than words, it's a feeling. So whatever comes up, and I'll get like a little image or just like the first idea that comes to me, I know that's what it wants, and I just trust that. But having said that, I mean, for someone who's new to it, it's like any relationship, it takes time. You don't see a stranger and go like, hey, let's go to bed together. Well, you could, but it's going to be awkward, and you're going to like probably get some kind of sexual diseases from that. But you approach them slowly and you're like, hey, so how are you doing? Where are you from? What are you into? So the same thing happens when you build that relationship with yourself. You're like, okay, hey, you know, we haven't spent that much time together, so let's get to know each other. What are the things we feel? How does it feel to spend time with one another? And that again happens in that space of stillness. Lots of people are so afraid of being alone with themselves that they fill their calendars and their days and their times and their hours with everything possible just to avoid that, because they're scared. They're scared to find some kind of monster, or they're scared to find something that they can't handle, or something that is really overwhelming. All sorts of things. I feel like people have a lot of ideas of themselves not being safe. That doesn't even make sense, but you know what I mean. And I actually understand that. I did go through a phase where I was like, I know the only way I can get through this is by facing my demon. And my demon was this fear of being bad. So I told you I had this like really tumultuous childhood. So a lot of the messaging that I got during that time was that I wasn't a good person, and that I didn't deserve good things in my life. And so one of my biggest fears was that was true, that I was essentially just a dark, bad person. And so spending time alone with myself and being with myself was like terrifying. Like, who wants to be with someone who's bad? No one. And I sat with it one day. I was like, you know what? There's only one way, and it's in. Like, let's dive into this darkness and this badness of myself. And I dove in there and I stayed with it, and I got to the other side. And when I looked back, I realized that this darkness was just like an imaginary black cloud that I had created, and it didn't exist. There was nothing there actually at all, nothing except like a really innocent, pure soul and nothing else. That was like, whoa. I'm like, okay, so all that's gone. It was just something that like I made up in my head because that's what I'd been taught as I was a child. Like, you're bad, you're bad, you're bad. So I was like, okay, I must be bad.
It is interesting though, seeing that, because some people are like, it's in their head, but also sometimes it's ingrained in people's bodies. So I'm always curious about too. But then it's like, yeah, there's almost like a whole fog. You talked about blacks being lifted.
It looked like a black cloud.
The black plague just went out of you. It was like,
yeah. Well, yeah, it was just like a figment of my imagination, as it turns out. It felt really real before then.
It is interesting though, like exploring all those different things, like what seems real and what's not, and what is reality, and almost the philosophy. I think it's so wonderful to have this chapter of our life. Like, one of the biggest blessings I see is having so much time.
Yes.
I still jam a lot of stuff in, but I almost have like that preference or choice to meet them and spend time with the most wonderful people on the planet. And that's a preference that I've communicated with my body. And then my body divinely leads me to different things and all around the world in that manner that all of a sudden the best people ever to show up. If I say I'll see you soon, you know that I'm going to see you soon.
Yeah.
I don't know how, but I want to talk to that next about alignment. You know, that principle. I'm just curious when you share about alignment and so forth, and what gets you there? What do you want to talk about in regards to alignment? Just something popped up then.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I use the word alignment all the time. And visually what it looks like is like there's a straight line between you and that thing or that experience or that person. Alignment, for me, alignment happens when I'm in my truth. When I'm out of my truth, there is no alignment. And when I'm in my truth, there is alignment to everything that is for me, which is a lot. So what's your question around alignment?
I'm just curious, like say, well, probably a better one still is if you're out of alignment, how do you get back into alignment? It's probably a better way to frame it.
Yes, great question. So one thing that I teach a lot, because this is really, it works for me, is using your body as a compass. And our bodies are the most honest and true thing in the world. So all of this messaging and all of these things that people tell you that you should be and do and things like that, none of that matters. The only thing that ever matters is what your body's telling you. And you can tell the difference because when you're in alignment, when you're in your truth, it feels clear and it feels clean. And that mental busyness fades away. When you're out of alignment, you spend a lot of time in your head and you're like, what if this? Maybe I should do that. This person's going to be unhappy with me if I do this. La, 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 la. And there's this constant conversation, and it's quite like almost like you're being bullied in your head by your own voices. And you're out of alignment. And you can tell you're out of alignment because the clarity isn't there. When you're in alignment, the clarity appears and there's just spaciousness and it feels easy. When it's out of alignment, it feels hard. It feels like a push. It feels like you're having to force things. It's not in flow.
I like that. I always am curious about that one because I've looked at it from different elements. I work with different guys, and some are like the peak performance business guys, and they're doing wonderful things. But when they slow it down, it's very hard because they're so used to being so regimented and let's get 300% more performance. Do stuff, but all of a sudden, like once you get them present, it's almost like they felt like they were aligned when they were busy. They had so much on. I know I've been there and done that. I just jammed so much life in. It was almost like I never had a time to feel like I was out of an alignment.
But is that adrenaline? I'm really interested in this as well. But I feel like, when you're really, I know that there's been times in my life when I've been really highly stressed. And because of the adrenaline that's running my life in that moment, things just move so fast that makes you feel like you're in flow and you're in alignment. But when you step out of it, you realize you're not in a good space when you're in that flow.
Yeah, for sure.
Could it be that? Is that the kind of thing?
Yeah, I definitely think that. Particularly for us gentlemen. It can be. But a lot of people are experiencing that, like talking about adrenal burnout, chronic fatigue. I just feel like it's when we're out of alignment with who we are. I see it with clients who've got cysts before on their heads and all kinds of stuff. And once they get back into, it might take 2 hours to get there. We'll do a session around something. All of a sudden, these cysts disappear. Their depression, that cloud of depression starts to move away. Because I think, next topic I want to talk about is judgment. But this is what I think is we're so worried about what people actually say, this is my dream. This is who I'd like to meet. I'm being more and more public about some of my big dreams recently. And it's been liberating. Because all of a sudden, the more that I'm just in alignment and just share it, people are like, oh yeah, I know that guy. Let's catch up. I'll send him a message. Guys like Elon Musk, who's a billionaire. Like, oh yeah. Like 3 people I've spoken to recently about something. They go, oh yeah, I know him. Great guy. And it's like this smaller world. But if I judged myself, I'd be limited. So I really want to talk about judgment next. I think it's a fun topic.
Yeah. My thing in life is freedom. It's so much. I speak about freedom. I teach about freedom. I live freedom. And judgment is the opposite of freedom.
Yeah.
Because it confines you and it limits you. And judgment comes from a space of fear. And the moment that you're in fear, you're no longer in alignment, no longer in your truth, and no longer able to live your purpose because you're like just blocked. It's suddenly like can't move forward because of the judgment. And the interesting thing is that judgment, like even when I notice with a lot of my female clients, they often spend a lot of time thinking about what other people are thinking about them. So there's like this self-judgment through the eyes of someone else. And seriously, one of the most important things we can all remember is that nobody is interested in you as much as they're interested in themselves. We are all so serving and self-obsessed in a way, which is not a bad thing. Like, we are the center of our own universe. So you never need to think about what other people think about you. The only person who has to care about what you think is you. Ever. So like, when we judge things, it's because of fear of external problems or something that might happen. And like, the only person who can ever punish ourselves is also just us. So if you don't judge yourself, you can't punish yourself. You're free to live life however you want and to do the things. And I feel like the more you take risks and push beyond those limitations, those boundaries and those fears of being judged and judging others as well, the more space you have to create the life that you truly dream of for yourself. The moment you step beyond that judgment and say, you know what, I'm just going to put it out there and I'm going to do it, and it doesn't matter, like, I might fail, and that's cool as well. Wow, that's where the magic happens. That's the wow factor.
I love the wow factor, because that's the thing everyone sees from the outside. You know, say we're all off running on adventures. I'm sure you've been on adventures before and you haven't had the money to do it, but you've just done it anyway. Am I right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it's funny. A lot of people say that conversation, right? When I have this, and when I have this, and when I have this, and when I have this, then I'll do it. They really freaking don't, ever.
I sometimes feel like money is just an excuse for something else. Like, we could often say, I don't have the money, but like, if I really, really want something, the money will show up. And that's something that I do. You know, we have conversations with all sorts of things. I often have conversations with the universe where I'm like, I really want this, so I'm going to buy it, so you better bring the money. And it works. It always works.
It's fun, huh? Let's talk about that deliberate creation. Because I think I talk about specifically what people want. Because I think a lot of people, they have a judgment or a projection of what's expected that they should want. Even, you know, at 35 right now, you should do this, and you should do this, and you should do this. And it's an interesting one. So how do you find that, you know, what you specifically want? And how do you find trying to create stuff that you think you should want?
That's such a good question, because the noises and the voices outside of us are so strong and so loud. And we live in a culture that wants us to, conform. Wants us all to conform and all do the same things, because it's self-serving that way. Like, if we all buy the same stuff and we all live the same lifestyles, we can be really controlled and we can be really confined, and that works for the system. So for me personally, I constantly check in with myself. Is this truly what I want? Or is this because I think this is what's expected of me? And I can tell the difference, because the things that I want, it's not, there's just like a bright joy straight away. Like, yes, this is what I want. Whereas things that I feel like I should be doing, for example, they feel kind of like grimy and icky, and like maybe they're hard work. And not to say that, you know, I feel like sometimes people say life isn't meant to be hard. That's different to hard work, like putting in your effort and your commitment to something and showing up consistently. You can classify that as hard work, but that's different. It's not hard. You love it. Oh, I love it. So the difference, always checking in with myself and following that joyful feeling, I know is my sign for what is true for me, for what I truly want, as opposed to what I think I'm supposed to be doing. I mean, I just did a podcast last week, actually, with a woman who runs a podcast called The Unclassified Woman, and it's about women who choose not to have children.
Yeah, right.
Because not so long ago, I had a really uncomfortable conversation with my mother where she was very unhappy that I hadn't had children yet and she hadn't had grandchildren. And I was like, you know what? It's very possible I'm never going to have them, and that's totally cool. And she was so upset and hurt by this. So we had this conversation on this podcast about how there's so many expectations on people to live life in a specific way. But if we took away the expectations, what actually makes you happy? If having kids makes you truly happy, do it for the planet, for all of us, absolutely. But if like creating videos or writing or traveling, whatever else it is, makes you truly happy, do it, because that also has a ripple effect on all of us as a whole.
I like that. I'm also going to talk about expectations in another way too. It just popped into my head. Is this: say you think about, I love travel so much. You love travel. Do you think
Mhm.
one of the reasons we love travel so much is it releases some of the expectations, or it's different? Like, what do you think it is about travel that's so enriching and liberating? Besides, you meet the
For me, I feel like it's two things. One is that you get to be a whole new person all the time
Mm.
because you don't get buried in the sameness of life and the expectations that other people place on you. So you get to just keep showing up as like who you really want to be in that moment, and you can be a new person in every place. Not that you are, but like you're fresh all the time. The other aspect of travel that I adore is that it allows me, because of the new external experiences all the time, it allows me to be really present and really appreciative of what's happening in my world in that moment, more so than it's really easy when you've lived in a place for a few years to stop noticing that beautiful coffee shop and that really cute street and that beautiful beach and all those things, unless you teach yourself or train yourself to consistently appreciate and enjoy and be present with those things. Travel makes it really easy because you're like, oh my God, look at this temple. How is this possible? Or yeah.
I just love the stories too. I met this lady who you'd love as well. She lives, if you ever go down the Great Ocean Road, her name's Leslie. And basically, similar to yourself, when I have a conversation with my body, I just say, body, guide me into the cool stuff. And I'm driving along with my mate Ronnie along the Great Ocean Road. And we get between Lorne and Apollo Bay. Have you done that road before?
Yeah, I have a few times.
It's gorgeous, huh?
So beautiful.
And my friend and I are cruising along. We had somehow someone had organized for us to relocate a camper van
Oh,
from
nice. Yeah.
Adelaide all the way back to Sydney. But rather than doing the quick way through, well, it wasn't an actual camper van. It was like a Mercedes-Benz Sprinter, like the big ambulances, but 1.5 times the size. But every time we turn our head, we'd be like this. Be the spot. And we pulled up into this property, which was a lady named Leslie had it. She traveled the world until she was 30-something. But a 4-year-old boy, she drove in a combi from Byron Bay all the way down to Apollo Bay. And then she stopped. Her head turned at this property, like ours did. It was 280 acres. She's driving around in a combi with a 4-year-old boy. Single mum, available mum, whatever you want to say. Long hair, dreadlocks. People think that there's no way for her to buy that property. She walks on the property and she goes and chats to the owners, and she didn't judge herself, but they definitely judged her a bit. And they're like, there's no way you can buy this property. So they told her, you're not allowed to be here. You can't look at this property. And it's an interesting one because 30 years later, guess where she lives? And that's the Richard Bransons of the world. He went to the islands. He didn't have a way to buy the island. They kicked him off. You just go in there because you get a free helicopter ride around the Necker Islands. Next thing, he's buying an island. And that's the people I want to spend time with.
Yeah. Yeah, people who really do things with their lives by following that thread, by following that impulse that carries them forward.
It's yummy, right? Next
So
one. I talk a lot about momentum, even though the way I describe momentum is probably a little bit different to how some people picture it. But I get a sense sometimes when we're talking about something, it's almost, when someone's in a job or a corporate career or something and they hear momentum, like, yeah, that's what I need. I gotta have that. I gotta have that. And then it's probably a little bit different from what they first thought. Tell me about what momentum means to you. I'd be curious.
I feel like I use a different word for what's probably the same thing, and I call it inspired hustle.
I like it.
And inspired hustle is not like an ongoing constant thing. That's adrenaline. It's a different thing because human beings, they have like energy highs and lows and flows. And inspired hustle happens when you've had that spacious alone time or just doing nothing time. And suddenly you get this burst of energy to do something, and it just moves you fast forward at such a rapid, incredible pace that you get to the end and you look back and you're like, I don't know how I did that in an hour. And that, at least that's how I understand what you mean by momentum. That's what I call inspired hustle. And it's not like, oh, I need to do this. It's like suddenly you have this inspired sensation and things just happen.
I like that because I almost read that in the Big Magic the other day. I just read a couple of lines from that book. and I flipped it open. It's Elizabeth Gilchrist, who wrote Eat, Pray, Love.
Mm-hmm.
She talks about like an idea almost floating by, and she grabbed it, and then she was going to write the book. And then because of some life circumstances, 2 years later, she went back to write the book again, and it just wasn't there anymore. Like she had all the outline, she had all the details, but the inspiration and whatever wasn't there anymore. Then she met another author who she was friends with. She went in so excited. She's met this woman. She's like, I love you. Goes up and kisses the woman on the lips, apparently. And they're like friends. She was like, fuck, I might be judged for this. But then they're just hugging it out. They've stayed friends ever since. And what I found wonderful about it, really crazy, is that this other woman had almost the exact same idea come through her. Which is interesting when we kind of put ourselves and our story outside the way and our identity. But where I get to with momentum is this. I look at how dolphins flow around. Mm-hmm. And you see dolphins, they're just kicking it together. And they just kind of flow up. And kind of like when you travel a lot, you just notice these pods of people in different places. Mm. And all of a sudden you're like, oh, wow, what are you doing here? I don't know. I'm just feeling it. That's what I'm curious about when I talk about momentum more and more. Is that one where there's certain currents that would like us to be aligned with them. And sometimes flow, sometimes float. Because if you're always flowing, you might always flow. You know, you can always just be like doing the same thing forever. You can go to certain places on the planet, the same people will be doing the same things in the flow for like 30 years. But momentum for me is like that ease that dolphins and whales have. And even that story I shared with you before we started chatting officially, before I clicked the record button, but those guys, Melinda and Adam, I'm going to catch up in Santa Monica after I made a decision to go over there. Christy watches them on a YouTube video, and then 30 minutes later, they're at the house. So that's what, if as a collective we can introduce the world to more of that, what do you actually think will be possible for humanity?
Oh my God. I don't even know. I mean, if I'm honest, that's how I think that we all can be living all the time. And I definitely get like moments of it happening. But I feel like, I mean, that's about connecting to that part of yourself that allows you to flow or be in the momentum, be in that space where you're following what feels good and following what you're being called towards. And then you end up in these incredible places that you're meant to be in.
I like all that yumminess. And preparing ourselves more for that. I've been doing it lately where I go with the questions. I've been going, well, what would I like my life and the world to be like in 5 years? Then 10 years, and then 20 years and 50 years. I've been doing it as most days as part of my morning ritual or session, whatever it is. But I'm all the way out to 500 years recently.
Wow.
Which has been interesting for me just to go, well, what are the things that we can create in this lifetime right now that are going to, maybe we'll live till we're 500. Pretty good chance we won't. It's a good target. But it's just a fun one, just to come from that, that sense of that what we're doing is divinely guided, or it's sacred, something to live our life from that space. My grandma I mentioned too. I feel like that's how she lived. And I'm going to ask you this because I did a call the other night with some of my mentoring guys, and I actually asked them a funny little question based on my grandmother, who was a big mentor to me. At her 100, she had 160 people there. And she had to say no to some people. She was still driving at 100. She was amazing, like mentally so sharp. Calling people, lived elegantly, wrote letters, all these different loving things. But I want to ask you this question. How would you love to celebrate your 100th birthday?
Oh my gosh.
Just a fun question, right?
I'd like a little mini music festival.
Cool.
With fairy lights strung up everywhere, and a band and lots of live music and people everywhere, and food and drinks and just people being able to have a lot of fun. Hopefully when I'm 100 I'll still be dancing a lot, so I'll be the 100-year-old on the dance floor.
I love it. It's just when I ask that more and more, it just gets me into this joy bomb space and almost gives my body permission to thrive longer.
That's a really beautiful way to do that. I've never thought of it. I love it.
Well, that's the thing. Half the things we never think about, they just pop, right? Half the things we're saying right now, I'm always curious about it. Where are all these ideas and inspirations coming from? What is really going on if we share our superhero capacities and gifts? I got inspired by that, one, by my grandmother, but two, by, I saw these guys on a motorbike and they drove into the car park where I was, and then they pulled off their helmet. Until they pulled off their helmet, I had no idea how young or old they were. Turns out they were probably about 70 or 80. And the woman gets her grey hair out and she does those ones, you know.
Nice.
She just had that finesse and sexy sassiness of like richly, juicily being alive. And it lit something up in me where I just looked at that and, well, cool, let's keep living.
Yeah, nice. I feel like lots of people are like, oh, when I get to about 60, 70, life's over. I'm like, why? Like, it's never, like, I even know people my age who are already planning their retirement. I'm like, I'm retired now. Thank you very much. Like, I'm ready to, I'll live life how I want to live it from now, not like with this future in mind in 30 years when I can finally relax and enjoy myself. Man, you know, I might die tomorrow. I have to relax and enjoy myself now.
We're so blessed, huh? I feel like really extra grateful to, for whatever reason, like different people, different moments, different experiences, and then doing the work, like, it's allowed me that space to really have the time to enjoy my life. Yeah. And that's I guess the thing that's going through me right now is I've done some of the wow stuff where I'll get featured on the cover of newspapers and different things with people like 74 and 82 skateboarding. I like to bring more of those elements to things, but kind of finding my way amongst all the sharing your message and marketing and different things. You've done a lot of stuff with the media. I'm just curious about that. And for someone who wants to do more of those things.
How do you get more of those things?
Yeah, well, just what inspires you to do it?
Basically, opportunities come to me and I take them, essentially. And the way that they do come to me is that I put a lot of time into building relationships. And I do that with joy. Like, I love doing that. So I really make sure that I connect with people and I follow up on them. And because I travel so much, I have, as soon as I get somewhere, I reach out, like, over Instagram, over social media, who can connect me with other people. And so that way my network grows really quickly. And one thing that I definitely do as much as possible, even though my business is 100% online, is to meet people in person when I'm in the same space, because that human connection creates something beyond anything else. And the other thing is, like, there's also psychological and mental blocks you could have around being in the media, about being seen and not being good enough and all sorts of stuff, and you have to let go of that crap because none of it really exists anyway. So giving yourself permission to be seen and giving yourself permission that you can live life the way that you want to, with lots of time and lots of freedom and lots of fun, and spending time with people that inspire and uplift you. And then giving yourself permission to go for it as well.
Fun. The best stories I've heard recently. Do you know a girl named Cassie Mendoza-Jones? Yes.
I don't know her personally, but yes.
I don't know her personally either. Christy just mentioned it the other day because she just bought about 5 of her books. And Cassie's created a phenomenal community because she just cares so much. And she recently got featured in the Collective magazine. I'm sure you've read that before. It's just a beautiful thing. Yeah. And my body's taken me to meet Lisa before. We just bumped into her in Sydney after Christy goes, I'd like to meet Lisa Messenger. But because Cassie cares so much, that's how they told her story. And I think that is one of the missing elements. If you look at the normal hustle, like, everyone's like, quickly, what can I get from this person? You go to a networking event, here's my card, call me.
Yeah.
Here's my card, call me. Here's my card, call me. And I don't know, like, it's so easy to get lost in that world, but it's so nice. Like my grandmother, like yourself, these different people that are really actually taking the time to care with people. I love seeing that more and more in the world. I
think that's a real true way to connect. It's so funny, you know, I think a week ago, some guy had added me on Facebook. And because he was a friend of mine, I was like, okay, that's cool. And then a few days later, he messaged me and he's like, I noticed that you're a writer. Here's a link to my book. And I was like, I ranted at him. I gave him such a stern talking to. I was like, you never, ever come into someone's space and then sell yourself to them in the first instance. If you're interested in getting to know me, you need to do some research. You need to, you know, there is Google, there is the internet. It's very easy for you to learn about someone and connect with them on a real hard basis. If you come in and go, hey, this is me, and here's my link, I give a flying fuck about you and your link. I'm sorry, because there is no emotional connection. If you don't create an emotional connection with me or with anyone, you don't get anything. And I mean, I work that way, and I expect that all humans work that way because we are emotional beings. So you start with the heart, and then the other things, they flow in naturally without you having to be like, hey, buy my books. Like, people will be like, I love you. What are your books about?
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
What can we say there? Start with the heart and do your part. Like that one.
I like that.
But it's cool too, just getting into that genius zone more and more. The more we can activate that. It's an interesting one too. I'm finding that now, I guess, as my business scales up a bit too, like making those decisions about, when I call out now with people, sometimes I have my phone on private number now. All of a sudden people get so excited. We have a conversation, they get so many things, and all of a sudden I'm like, texts and messages and stuff. So just finding that different way, as you go through the different elements. Have you kept all your inboxes open and stuff? You just managing that? Do you always respond to Facebook, or do you leave it? What's your little things you do there?
I actually have a few Facebook groups that I manage, and I get most people to, if they want to interact with me and they don't want to be one-on-one clients with me, to put all of their information in there, because then the entire group can offer them support, which takes the pressure away from me, and B, just in the vulnerability of expressing what it is that you want help with to a group transforms that experience. So it's really about redirecting the energy away from me having to carry it all to it being a community-based thing. So when I get I don't give my phone number to anyone, but like anything on Facebook, I redirect them to a group, or I redirect them to something where they can work with me, because my time is valuable. And emails, it depends, but most of the time I redirect them to a space where they can get support from a whole community of people.
It's just fun finding that thing. I like the community. I've done a few Facebook groups like that recently. I was also reading how another guy, Brendan Bouchard's done it. He's grown a really phenomenal business with his books and crafting out things. But up until recently, he was writing all his copy. He was doing things. And I think the secret ingredient's the same one that our grandmothers taught to us. Just putting love in everything. And the more we put the love in everything, I don't know, things just start to almost self-orchestrate and have a life of their own. It's pretty cool. And seeing in those communities, seeing different people step up and lead and share and comment, and it's so fun. You'd love what Christy's doing something cool at the moment too.
Yeah.
So fun. I'm so proud of her. Like, she's really stepped it up recently, which is just, seeing.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it's exciting. It'll be good when you all get to catch up.
Yeah, it'll happen somewhere. I feel like maybe North America.
Fun. Woo!
Yeah.
Final comments for everyone watching. What do you want to share as like your final little part of this message today?
Final message.
Can I ask you a question? But I thought I'd just give it to you like that one. What do you
Sure.
want?
I feel like, if there's one single thing that you walk away with after watching this, it's start building that relationship with your body, with your inner compass, with that intuition that resides within you. Because if you ever have a question, if you're ever worried, if there's anything that makes you feel like things aren't good, the answers are right there. They're not out here, they're in there. And the stronger that relationship is, the easier and faster those answers come to you, and you're set.
Awesome. Such a good one to be in that space. I've literally did it at an event a while ago. You would have pretty much laughed at me, actually, because I went into an event and everyone was doing their serious keynote speeches. And I got there, and there was a beautiful woman, Andy, who I'm really good friends with as well now. She'd gone over time on her event. And then she was still there. When you're at a talk and it was your turn to get on stage, and she's still there 15 minutes later. I walked in, I had my skateboard. I was going to skateboard down the aisle. And I got there, I was like 7. I was like, oh, so sad, because everyone's still there for her, and what if they're not there for me? I had that thought for a second, almost like, this is a stupid little thought. And then it was gone. It was like, nah. And then someone comes up to me, Brock, we're so happy you're here, because we didn't think we thought you were running late. We thought this girl was doing something else. So I kindly asked her to leave. Next thing she did, I jumped up on stage and skateboarded up and down a boardroom table. Before I judged myself and thought about it, I was like, what am I doing? But having so much fun in the thing, I just got the women actually to connect with their bodies. I was just thinking, Yeah, the more we can just do that with one another, it's so nice. Because then when you get a hug from someone, like it's so much better. You know, when someone is actually like connected to their body, and food tastes better, water's better.
Yeah,
And that whole,
definitely.
everyone's teaching people how to make more money, do things. Those things are so important. But when we have that deep connection to ourselves and those other elements stack in our well-being, so good.
And those things come really naturally then. I feel like sometimes people are like, I'm going to hustle, I'm going to make this money, and it's awesome to have financial goals and to have material goals. But it's actually when you're connected that those goals come to you so much more easily rather than you having to go out there and get them and grab them and force them into your life.
So true, hey? I love these conversations. Wish we could chat for longer. I always like to keep it. I've just been doing somewhere. I'm literally on there for an hour and a half. Then I hang up and keep talking. But I'm getting better at precision of certain amounts of time. It's been an absolute pleasure. I'm going to leave your website details in the comments with this. It's going up on YouTube. It's always a pleasure to chat. Hey, you can do it with me. 5. Do you want to do a bam with me? If you got a way you like to end off when you do videos, I always
No.
like, bam. You want to do one?
Okay, let's do one.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bam. Fun.